Can you smell it? That is the smell of fresh cut grass. You can hear the pads popping, the whistles blowing. Football is almost here. Training camp is less than a week away for the Cleveland Browns, and I am stoked. I got drunk on Friday night, went home, started watching Quarterback on Netflix. Great documentary series. I thought it was really good, but it got me very excited for football to finally get back. So I thought on a Monday afternoon, this would serve as a good primer to get everyone in the football mind space and get everyone ready for training camp, who to watch for and what to watch for here. Some background on Cleveland's training camp. They will open up this Friday at the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia. Now, the rookies will report to Berea July 19th, the veterans on the 21st. I believe they're going to do a bit of a convoy system. I don't know if it's like a Michael Scott convoy. Probably going to get a team bus or something like that and drive from Cleveland down to West Virginia because they have the Hall of Fame game this year. So them and the Jets are starting a week earlier in their preseason or their training camp as they get ready for Canton on August 3rd against the New York Jets. But if you are ready for football to get back, because I am so excited. Now, I will put out a disclaimer of I do not believe football is really back until Thursday, week 1, Chiefs-Lions, right? Preseason is the biggest blue balls in sports. We're all super excited. And then the 22 starters don't even dress, and it's all for nothing. But it's still fun to watch football, but football is not back until week 1. Nothing before that. Not even week 0 of college football. Because even that's one of the biggest teases where, hey, this is meaningful football, but I've never heard of any of these players, and I will not watch any of these teams ever again because Nebraska is going to lose week 1 or week 0, and, well, we know how Nebraska season always goes after that. But let's get into my first player to watch at training camp. It's none other than Deshaun Watson. I don't think this one requires much more explanation. The $230 million quarterback has all of the eyes in Northeast Ohio and the NFL world upon him. He has to look good, right? The Browns offense has to come out slinging the rock, rocking and rolling, picking up where they left off in minicamp and OTAs, which are glorified flag football practices. So the offense is supposed to dominate, and it's good to see the offense dominate because you did a quick look around the rest of the NFL Twitter world during OTAs and minicamp, and not all fan bases were as jazzed up about their offense as Browns fans were, but all of the eyes in Cleveland are on Deshaun Watson, and it starts with training camp. This is a do-or-die season for the Cleveland Browns, right? I don't want to get too dramatic here, but so much hinges on the 2023 season, I think. They have gone all in, chips into the middle of the table. They've got a huge cap deficit in 2024. This is the most talented Cleveland Browns roster since the return in '99. They have to deliver, and it starts with number 4. So, of course, he is going to be the number 1 player people are watching for in Greenbrier, in Berea, and during preseason games. And he's going to command a lot of attention, and you can mark me down as a Deshaun Watson believer. I think he is going to have a very strong 2023 NFL season, and it's going to start, hopefully, with a strong training camp and preseason and develop some chemistry with his new offensive weapons like Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin and build off of the 6 games he played with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper last season. Now, speaking of some of his new toys to throw to, Elijah Moore is my second player to watch for at training camp. The Browns identified a big hole in their offense, and that was speed. And what did they do to address it? They did a day 2 pick swap with the New York Jets to land the former Ole Miss Rebel. And now we have a bit of a battle between Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones for that number 2 wide receiver spot. I think Elijah Moore is going to end up being a slot receiver, maybe even see him in the backfield from time to time. I know we got a peek of that during minicamp. Probably not going to be very often, though. Maybe a trick play here or there. But I want to know, does Elijah Moore emerge as a clear-cut wide receiver 2 and develop some chemistry with Deshaun Watson? Can he really get over that hump, or not even get over the hump? Can he at least get to the hump and then get over it all in one season and be a 1,000-yard receiver in his first season with the Browns? I've got high expectations for Elijah Moore. I think he can deliver. This was a player I remember us talking about back in October, November as a potential trade deadline target. There was some murmurs, some chatter about the Browns doing their homework on Elijah Moore. They ultimately get the deal done a few months later, but I am excited to see what does Elijah Moore bring to this offense that it was sorely lacking last season, which was speed. Now, make sure to follow along, by the way, for more training camp updates, news, rumors, all that good stuff. We are at 20,178 subscribers. If we can get to 21,000 by the time week 1 rolls around, that'd be a pretty nice step in the right direction. So help us grow our channel, and in return, get free daily Cleveland Browns content. It's a pretty good win-win if you ask me. My third player to watch for at training camp is the rookie defensive tackle, Siaki Ika. Now, I don't think rookies usually fall under training camp players to watch for because it's their first training camp. There's going to be some growing pains. It's not going to be college tape to NFL tape. There won't be a direct line. But I think Siaki Ika is someone to keep an eye on because when you look at Cleveland's defensive line depth chart, there is a big question mark on it. And it is who will be standing next to or lining up next to Dalvin Tomlinson when it's all said and done. Will it be the incumbent Jordan Elliott, the rookie Ika, the second-year player Perrion Winfrey? Could it be a dark horse like Tristan Hill or Maurice Hurst? I'm not quite sure. And that is why Ika is someone I am watching for closely during training camp. Now, before we get on to the rest of this episode, today's Cleveland Browns report is sponsored by ZBiotics. Let's face it, after you guys hit me with a bunch of super chats, I don't always bounce back well the next day. But that is until I found ZBiotics. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut where you need it most. Drink ZBiotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Now, you guys can see here the ZBiotics package. It's not really all that big. That's what she said. It comes in a nice slim box right now, and if you take it out, it comes with 6 bottles. It's super light, so it's really easy to travel with. If you've got a bachelor party or you got a guy's weekend or something like that, or a ladies' weekend, ZBiotics is awesome for it. So go to zbiotics.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription as well, so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you are ever unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That's zbiotics.com/chatsports and use the code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring today's video. All of that information is in the comments and the description of today's show. Talking about defensive linemen, though, and Jordan Elliott, as he gets ready to potentially start his second season, Elliott kind of comes out of the offseason as a bit of a winner because this was definitely a position of need and somewhere that Andrew Berry had to address. And he addressed it to replace guaranteed one of the 2 starters with Dalvin Tomlinson. But the other spot is still up for grabs, and Elliott might end up emerging as the starter yet again, which would make me pull my hair out a little bit because last year we saw enough of tape of Elliott to know he's not a starting defensive tackle in the NFL, but they might not have a better option, right? Perrion Winfrey, I'm hopeful will take a big sophomore leap, but he has to make sure he is ready to go on and off the field. And if Perrion Winfrey has some maturity issue still going into season number 2, and he is not in a spot where he can be relied on and be accountable on and off the field, then Winfrey might see himself fall down the pecking order a little bit on the depth chart. So Winfrey is definitely someone that I'm going to keep a close eye on. But another player to keep an eye on is Siaki Ika, the 3rd-round pick out of Baylor in 2023. The Browns identified him right before the end of round 3. This was someone that Jim Schwartz said, you've been a dump truck your whole life. You're going to be a Ferrari now. He wants to get this guy into football shape, into NFL shape. And so Ika is a player that could walk away and come out of training camp as this team's starting defensive tackle. And if I'm told right now, if future PD comes back in time and tells me Siaki Ika and Dalvin Tomlinson are your week 1 starters, I'm very optimistic that means Siaki Ika had one hell of a training camp in preseason and emerged as a legit starting defensive tackle, and Jordan Elliott is now in a rotation, which, hey, Elliott in a rotation, that's serviceable. Elliott getting 65% of snaps, that's not desirable. So pick a starter for me. Jordan Elliott, Perrion Winfrey, or Siaki Ika. Type their jersey number down in the comment section below. I'm not going to get too drunk on the Ika Kool-Aid because he's only a rookie. And every single year, all 32 NFL fan bases do this, where they go into training camp and they watch so much college tape of the guys that their team drafted, and then they get slapped in the face with a big old humble pie, and it's a reminder of they're just rookies. There's a big leap from the NFL, from the college ranks to the NFL. And so for Ika, it might not be instantaneous. It might take some time, and that's why I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on him just being anointed as a starting defensive tackle. But if he does have a good training camp, and that's why I'm watching him, this could be a fun defensive line, and it's already a lot of fun. My 4th player to watch for is cornerback Greg Newsome. So the reason why I tossed Newsome on here is there's still a bit of a question mark as to what is Newsome's role on this team, right? Is he an outside corner or is he a nickel slot corner? Because we saw last year he made the transition once they moved on from Troy Hill to being the dominant primary nickel cornerback, right? His first season with the Browns, he had 102 snaps in the slot. Last year, that number was 3.5x, 378 snaps. Now, we know that Greg Newsome did not necessarily fare all that well. He wasn't bad in the slot. I think that's been exaggerated a little bit, but he knows that the money for NFL cornerbacks is being on the outside. And that's where he's at his best, too. So he was a soldier. They needed him in the nickel. He stepped into that role. It worked out well because you got to have Martin Emerson and Denzel Ward on the outside, Newsome in the slot. Everyone's sort of at their best spot. At least, Newsome was the best option at slot compared to Ward or Emerson. But I know that Newsome wants to get out of the slot, and he wants to go back to being an outside corner. He somewhat verbalized that during the offseason on Twitter. And so that's why I am watching for, Newsome to see where he lines up, where he calls home during training camp. We'll throw his stats on screen from the last 2 seasons to refamiliarize yourself with it. Again, I think it's a bit of an overreaction that Newsome was bad in the slot last year. Newsome is a quality starting NFL cornerback 2 seasons through. Like, we've seen a good chunk of Newsome at this point now, right? 12 games his rookie season, 15 games the next year. What is that, 27 games in his NFL career? You can get a pretty good idea of someone by that point. And Newsome is a starting caliber type cornerback in the National Football League. And the grades reflect that, right? 69.1 PFF grade. Pro Football Focus thought he got better in his second season, despite your average fan feeling like he took a step back because he wasn't in his primary role. The big 0 on the board is interception. So can we see the first interception of his NFL career? Hopefully. Now, if it's not Newsome in the slot, I don't have a clear answer for you as to who Jim Schwartz will turn to. They added Mike Ford during the offseason, kind of a lower key move. Really good special teamer, so maybe they give that a shot. Cam Mitchell, a 5th-round pick out of Northwestern, one of Newsome's teammates from Evanston. Maybe? Again, he wasn't a slot corner in college either, though. A.J. Green, big fan of him. Who's the better A.J. Green? People are talking. And then Thomas Graham, if you don't know this name, start to put it in the back of your head because I think he might be the dark horse to come away as this team's starting nickel cornerback. Big fan of Thomas Graham. He shut down Justin Jefferson one Monday night with the Bears when the entire secondary was out with COVID. So Thomas Graham could be a dark horse to take that role. 5th and final player I'm watching for, I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to go with linebackers in general, just the entire room, because we are still in a holding pattern as to when these linebackers are going to return back to healthy form. The Cleveland Browns linebacker room right now, we know the starters, J.O.K., Anthony Walker, and Taki. What we don't know is when those 3 players will be back and ready to go, pads on, no limitations or anything like that. JOK is likely the closest of the bunch. Didn't hear a lot of negativity in terms of his availability during OTAs and minicamp. All signs appear to be a go and ready to launch for JOK. But Walker and Taki, that's a different conversation because this linebacker room was just devastated last year with injuries. Walker missed 14 games. Phillips missed 10 games. JOK missed the last 6 games. Taki missed the last 5 games. All 4 players ended the season on injured reserve. We know that the offseason, at least in my brain, is one of those times where everyone just hits like a health boost and gets back to 100%. But that's not always the case. So don't be surprised if a good chunk of these 4 players on screen start training camp on the PUP list. So the buzz coming out of OTAs, I will add, was that the Browns could go with a lot of 5 down linemen on the defensive front. And if that's the case, you've got 5 down linemen up front. You go with 2 linebackers, and then you've got 3 corners and 2 safeties, if I did my math right there. So would not be blown away if Cleveland decides our best 11 players include 5 defensive linemen. Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Okoronkwo, Dalvin Tomlinson, and then Ika, Jordan Elliott, Perrion, Winfrey, whoever emerges as that bunch there. And then at linebacker, if they're not all healthy, it's going to be JOK and probably Walker until Taki can return. And at cornerback and safety, we know who the starters are. So don't be too shell-shocked if all of a sudden, hey, you're going to tweet, the Browns are kind of rolling out a different look on defense. We're seeing a lot of 2 linebacker sets. This might be a way that they put a Band-Aid on the linebacker room until everyone gets back to 100%. No sense in adding someone off the street if they don't think he's all that good. How about roll with two linebackers and just toss an extra defensive tackle on the field? Now, I will add, I hope that JOK is in line for a big 2023 season because if they do roll with 2 linebackers, this is going to be your primary guy, right? JOK is the only guy in this linebacker room I could see being on this team past this season, right? Everyone else is on 1-year or expiring contracts for the most part. JOK needs to flourish this year. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah needs to show us more of what we saw in year 1 with incredible athleticism and speed from the linebacker position. The only thing is, if anyone gets hands on his shoulder pads, it's game over for JOK. Hopefully with a revamped defensive line, the offensive line won't be able to get to the second level. He can fly into the backfield. He can blow up plays. He can take down running backs. He can sack quarterbacks. He can do all of the things he was so good at in South Bend, and we saw a lot of in year 1. But now we've gone through 2 seasons. Both seasons he's missed time due to injuries, and last year just did not see a big enough leap forward in year 2 because his defensive line was doing him no favors. So do you guys think JOK will have a breakout season? I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. It needs to happen in my eyes. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. As for some storylines to keep an eye on, just Jim Schwartz's new defense in general, right? We're going to finally see Jim Schwartz's defense put the pads on because if the pads aren't on for defense, you can't grade them, right? It's just not fair to grade flag football from a defensive standpoint when there's no pass rush. So once the pads come on, I'm excited to see the tempo and the speed and the direction Jim Schwartz has these boys flying. Very excited to see this retooled, revamped defense under one of the greatest defensive minds in football in my eyes, Jim Schwartz. Second thing I'm watching for, just what Kevin Stefanski has in store this summer, right? This is one of 2 teams that are going to get started a week earlier than everyone else. So how is he going to manage that, right? Is he going to get them kind of burned out too quickly? Hopefully not, because this team has a big season ahead of them, and it has a very important start to the year. You have the Bengals coming to town, one of the juggernauts of the AFC. And then week 2, you go onto the road, in my eyes, to your arch rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Mike Vrabel and the Titans might not look like a team with a lot of teeth to it, but when has Mike Vrabel's Tennessee Titans ever been an easy out? I mean, they went to overtime with the Kansas City Chiefs last year with Malik Willis starting. So the Titans are no team to sleep on. Hopefully the Browns remember that last year after the Falcons game. And then week 4, you got Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Like, those are 4 very tough games in my eyes before a bye in week 5. They have to come out of that at least 2-2. So how Stefanski manages the workload over the summer might reflect in the first couple of weeks in the season. And to echo it one more time, it's Deshaun Watson season, baby. I mean, it is all eyes on number 4. He has to look the part. He has to have a great summer. Everything has to be clicking. They have to go into the season without any excuses. There is just no time for growing pains, right? There is no time for, he's still picking some things up. No, they just can't have that. It has to be all sales, let's go, full ride, full regalia, down the throat, all that good stuff. So all eyes on number 4. If you made it to the end of the video, drop a Go Browns for me down in the comment section. I just want to get a good pulse, get a good sense, if you will, of those of you that watch all the way through for all of our videos. So drop a Go Browns in the comment section if you made it to the end. Okay, it's my favorite time of the show. That might change. Tex, did you hear the news? I think you might have been out. Yeah, you were out Friday. Trace got it.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's tied between host and producer 1-1. So you have an opportunity for your side to pull ahead here.
Okay.
What card do you want to go with?
Let me go with the Jack of Clubs.
I'm not going to lie, that kind of scares the shit out of me. Okay. Wow. I was hoping you'd go with something like 4 diamonds. Give me the 3 of hearts. Oh my God. 4 of spades. Isn't that what I just shit talked to? 4 of spades. Hey, that's for Deshaun Watson. That has to be good juju. I like it. Okay, 4 of spades. Watson, 40 touchdowns. Heard it here first. See you guys later.